Tourism and culture are the two driving forces that propel your civilization to cultural victory. In this video, I focus on the main sources of tourism and how to get the most out of it. Here's the approximate statistical breakdown for a game where Vietnam generates plus 2,000 tourism with 11 cities. It has no biosphere wonder, but most of the modifiers applied and some of the museums are themed. Lifetime accumulation of tourism is what creates visiting foreign tourists. If that number is higher than the number of domestic tourists, then the cultural dominance is established over an opposing civ. Dominate over every civ and achieve the cultural victory. The actual formula for regular game settings goes something like this. So tourism accumulation per turn is important because later improvements like National Park built on turn 180, let's say, can eclipse Stonehenge's tourism output built on turn 30 because the accumulation tourism rate of the national park is much higher. Tourism is easier to generate later in the game because of the new sources and modifiers that become available. Hence the idea that focusing on tourism early is not efficient, but every little bit helps. In my opinion, culture victory requires a balanced game where your main focus is on culture to fend off opponents by generating domestic tourists, but also ensuring your own pace with science, because it is just as important, and you will see why shortly. So what are the early sources? Well, first one is the religious tourism. It is mostly based on collecting relics. Relics are pretty huge. They generate plus 8 tourism per turn, which is the highest by default out of all great works. If you get candy suzerainty early, which gives you a relic every time you discover a natural wonder, then collecting several relics would make temples a tourist destination later. You can also find relics in the tribal villages or through apostles' martyrdom promotion. I also try to get a religion because a holy city produces extra tourism as well. Even though religious tourism is decreased by the Enlightenment civic by 50%, it can actually be negated by building Cristo Redento wonder. And the different religions modifier that also comes in at minus 50% can be negated by converting your opponents to your own religion, but that turns into a religious game. In any case, it's still a source of tourism, so why not? Speaking of why not, the walls. Each level of walls provides a bit of tourism, but again, it accumulates over time, and using policies, government policies like limes, should help get them up easy enough. So why not? You can also buy walls and other city center buildings with faith if you have suzerainty over Valletta city-state. But what should be the plan beyond religious tourism and walls? Let's go through the timeline and identify major milestones that are desirable for cultural victory. The first thing you do is explore the map in the ancient era. And you can find more details on settling your first city and exploration in my Where to Settle Cities series. Once you have some space opened up, it is time to plan national park and seaside resorts. To learn more about the park's planning and tile appeal management, watch my National Parks video. Government Plaza becomes available in the ancient era. It is going to be important for the overall development of the empire, especially for its Tier 3 building Natural History Museum for the cultural push. Try to build it in the capital. That city should become the strongest cultural city full of great works in the eras to come, as we'll see later. For the early culture and science, make sure to make use of city-states that provide those type of bonuses. Overall, I'm a big fan of city-states, and I try to obtain suzerainty of the fancy ones like Ayutthaya that allows to gain culture equal to 10% of the construction cost when finishing buildings. And I build a lot. Otherwise, send just one envoy to as many city-states as you can early, because at this point of the game, more envoys per city-state without earning suzerainty will not earn you any benefit. Save the rest of the envoys for later. Early wonders are not critical. Oracle would be excellent with its great people points, but naturally, the more wonders you can swing, the better. I would focus on expansion and make sure that I have at least 8 cities founded by turn 100. Classical era provides many civics that are geared towards culture, but I don't think there is anything critical. The Colosseum wonder is desirable. There's culture bonus, but also amenities that are important for the overall production capacity of the empire. As mentioned earlier, getting a religion and having a holy city is a boost to tourism accumulation. The relics can be stored in temples, so if you are on this path, then swinging by theology to pick it up would be useful. You should definitely plan on building amphitheaters because each earns great writer points and adds another 1 culture per turn from cultural city-states bonuses. Great works of writing is one of the earlier tourism sources and will double its output after you research printing tech in the Renaissance era. So here's the first incentive to keep up with science. The more great works you collect, the less will go to your opponents, but you don't have to collect every single one of them. And try to get some of the others that generate more tourism, like the ones by Kamal Belzad, for example, Hasegawa Tohaku and Vasily Kandinsky that earn more tourism than the regular arts. Pingala is your most important governor. By the end of the classical era, Pingala should be promoted all the way to Grant's title. Ideally, Pingala and Oracle should be placed in the same capital city. Remember that building Government Plaza and each subsequent building in it will provide an extra governor title. So by the end of the classical era, there should have been 6 titles earned. I would use 4 of them on Pingala, 1 on Magnus to hire and chop, and also I would hire either Amani if there is a good city-state around, or Reina, who will help and allow for faster border expansion. We're going to need Reina later for her forestry management title as well, as she has to be one of the governors before we get to the conservation civic in the modern era. Note that hiring all governors will benefit during the Golden Age dedication, Wish You Were Here, that starts in the Atomic era, that grants plus 50 tourism to wonders in cities with governors. I'll continue going through the eras in the next episode. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.